like to make it, whatever making it means to you. For me, like, I feel like I have made it with the community on YouTube, but you'll never make it when you think or when you want to make it. But if you keep going, you'll make it. And I took that to heart as a 15-year-old kid. And I mean, here we are 30 years later and I'm still playing and I'm loving the instrument more and more. So
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters in That podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And joining me today, hailing from Manitoba, it's Myke Lewis. How you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. You doing good?
I'm doing good. And did you say you just moved into a new residence?
Yeah, right now I'm just staying with family for a few weeks because we're still house hunting. But I do have a new drum spot, like where I can continue doing covers. So I'm halfway to being a real person again.
I was going to say, no, the hairdo there looks like you kind of either a rough night or just did not want to get out of bed this morning.
No, it's just how I look sometimes. So I went for a run this morning and it didn't kill me. I'm doing okay.
Okay. Yeah, if what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, then how about that?
They keep telling me that. I have yet to see proof, but I'm not a scientist.
Yes. We are just musicians, so I think our knowledge of science just happens to be just simple biology or chemistry and stuff like that. So, all right.
Well, musicians and knowledge don't generally go hand in hand. That's the thing.
There are a couple exceptions, actually. I think there's some people who study like neuroscience and stuff like that, but that's a whole other story. But enough about that. Welcome to my podcast here, buddy. And I got some questions here for you because I think everybody wants to know a little bit more about you. So, you ready?
Sure. Fire away.
All right. So, first question. Tell us a little bit about yourself, particularly your drumming history.
My drumming history, I wanted to play drums as far back as when I was about 5 or 6 years old. I saw the video, like I'd been into music prior to that, but it was like Pink Floyd, and I was really into album artwork. Actually got me into music before music did. And it was this album, The Wall. I found this when I was like 2. And I was, what the hell is this? And to my parents' credit, they put it on every day for years. And I listened to that. And then I saw when I was, this would have been about 7 years old, I think. And I saw the video for the song Money for Nothing by Dire Straits from this album. And that opening drum solo was on. We didn't have MTV back then in Canada. We had much music. But even then, it wasn't full on. So it was like, I think it was a show called Video Hits. And they showed this video, and I was at a friend's place. We were playing in his living room, playing G.I. Joes or something. And the video comes on, and something in my brain said, that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. And here we are. So that's how it started. And then for 5 or 6 years, my parents made me take organ lessons. Because they didn't want to listen to drums in the house, and organs you could plug headphones in. So, and I'm glad they did that in retrospect, because learning major and minor chords and basic music theory that's good for any musician on any instrument, even the drums. But after that, it was grade 7 when I went to school band. Like, I don't know if you took band in school, but like marching band and symphonic band, that kind of thing. But I wanted to play the drums, and the guy said, no, you're playing the clarinet. So I played clarinet for like a month, which also actually in retrospect wasn't that bad. But at the time I hated it because it was painfully uncool. And so I tricked my parents, basically. What happened was I asked the drum teacher finally after a month, can I please play drums? So he said, come in tomorrow morning before school starts, like 8 a.m. or something, and we'll see if you can read the music and go from there. And it was like super, super, super basic stuff. Like I came in the next morning and it was like, can you go, 1E and 2E and kind of thing. And I did it. And he said, okay, you get a pair of sticks and a practice pad. You're the drummer now. And this was just marching snare drum. So I, of course, run home and I tell my parents, I'm playing drums in the school band. I need an entire drum set. And they didn't question it, thank Christ. So they rented me a drum kit. It was not a good drum kit, but it was everything I had at the time, and it was my whole world. It was Torque, which I don't know if you've ever played Torque, but it's like playing Sadness in a drum form. And it's just not a good set of drums. But for a 12-year-old, I was ecstatic. I played every day for months. They would flick the lights on and off because I was in the basement. And that's how they'd get me to stop. But again, to their credit, they let me play for 2-3 hours at a stretch. And then they got me my own proper kit, which was a Yamaha Power V kit, 5-piece, the standard 12, 13, 16, 22-inch kick kind of thing. And some old Sabian B8 cymbals. I do not miss those. And basically, I had that kit for a decade. Played on some records with it, went on some tours with it, played a ton of shows with it. And then I traded in for the kit you see in my drum covers, the Beach Custom Absolutes, which I've had since, Jesus, I'm old, 2002 or 2001. And then, that was basically the arc of drumming. Was I just sort of Steven Spielberged my way into it and then just kept going so people knew I was serious, and then it sort of just stuck. And I've been doing it ever since. So how old am I now? It'll be 33 years this October.
I see. Yeah, we are getting old, especially now that you got the coffee mug and everything too. So.
Oh, yeah. No, this is black chai. I haven't done coffee yet in my entire life.
Okay. Actually, same here too. I don't know what it is about coffee. Like, I think I had a bad experience because I think it burned me the one time. And that was not scorching hot, but, still hot sort of thing. And it's like, I'm not doing coffee anymore, mommy, that sort of thing. So
I never developed a taste for it. It's the same thing with beer. Like, I can drink, hard alcohol all day if I have to. I don't, but if I have to, there's a lot of it I don't mind. I just never developed a taste for coffee or beer, and I've been an outcast in society ever since. So
yep, he's also say like there's the introverted nerd sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned about the drumline too. Actually, we did have band in the school that I've gone to, but I was in the strings. Those are some of the stuff I mentioned in my other interviews too. So, and I was obviously more the cello player, and then eventually converted to the drum sets eventually later in my life. So,
hello.
Oh, did you lose me?
Sorry, Skype just skipped for a second. You played cello?
I did, yeah. And,
man, I love the cello. I think it's one of the nicest sounding instruments that humans have ever invented.
It is, and it's at least a nice, perfect balance between the viola and the bass. So it's
exactly.
It's actually perfect too. It's not as bad, especially bass when you have to like lug around all over the place, and then
God,
it's a lot harder with the violin or the viola, especially since you got to put it like under here and everything. Just play it that way. But it was actually really fun, and I do kind of miss it. But when I went off to college, they didn't have. Actually, the one school that had everything I needed was about 3 hours away. And that's obviously a 6-hour drive just going to and for. So
it's a bit much.
It would have been too much. So we stuck with the one that was closer, and it was good. It was good memories and everything, but they didn't have the orchestra and everything. So unfortunately, the cello sat around collecting dust, and we eventually sold it off. So I then dedicated much of my time to drums, and eventually starting this, and then taking up a second job and everything. So it's an honest life.
It has to be.
Yeah. So
I found that with school band, it was in retrospect quite valuable. Like I learned a lot of really good lessons. Learning to sight read is something I'd recommend to anyone on any instrument. And then I found I butted heads though with the band teachers a lot because I was a teenage spaz. I was so enthusiastic about the instrument that it was almost off-putting. And the straw that broke the camel's back was in grade 11. We were doing Sing, 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 that Gene Krupa song from way, way, way back. And there's an 88-bar drum break in it where all you're supposed to do, sorry, I only have mesh heads on here right now, but basically you're just going like, dun, 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 right? You do that for 88 bars. I got overly creative and went home and wrote an 88-bar Neil Peart-esque drum solo because I had just discovered YYZ the year before and was listening to Exit Stage Left a whole bunch. And so I got about 3 bars into that, and then I was expelled from band permanently. You know the movie Whiplash?
It sounds familiar. Who starred in that?
It's a drummer movie, but basically it's about this band teacher who's clashes with the drummer, and it gets pretty mean spirited. And that was more or less my high school band experience with this guy. It was just all about him winning trophies and not about us learning music. And so I explored a lot on my own, which actually wasn't the worst thing ever, because it sent me off into the wilderness on my own to figure out how drumming worked. And I had taken some lessons. I had a couple really, really good teachers early on, but like 99% of what I know comes from just exploring, on my own. So anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Yes. In other words, you just went out like Christopher Columbus did, and you just happened to find that special talent somewhere.
Well, yeah, I just hope that it doesn't get the same end results. Yes. 500 years later, man, that Mike Lewis guy really ruined the world. Yes. I just like listening to records, reading Modern Drummer like every day, listening to music all day long, every day. And just playing along to CDs constantly, like between 1991 or 92 and I think, 1999, I was playing along to CDs every single day, and which is not the worst way to spend your time. Like I spent probably more time playing along to this album than I did doing anything else in my life. This was the first Rush record I ever got, and it's like this is, I love playing along to this. Even to this day, it's more fun than going to Disney World. But, was
that their first one, or I guess?
No, this is their third live album. This is from the Hold Your Fire tour. So like, they all have like the kind of the goofy haircuts still in this one. Uh-huh. But what I really liked about it is that growing up, like I'm really into science fiction and robots and spaceships and futury stuff, and I like cartoons and I like all that kind of stuff. And so when music started incorporating electronics in the 1980s, that sort of fit in with science fiction in my head. So like I got really into synthesizer stuff and drum machine stuff because I was born in 78, so I was primed for this, right? Like Def Leppard's Hysteria came out and I'm like, this is the coolest sounding drum set I've ever heard in my life. And I love the sounds that you get out of drum machines and synthesizers, but what I loved about the Show of Hands record, is that Neil Peart was really playing and then incorporating these things organically into his kit, because that was Grace Under Pressure is when he had the satellite kit for the first time behind him. And by Hold Your Fire, he had the MIDI marimba and he had like all the extra little triggers and stuff around. And when I saw the video for Show of Hands, I think I wore out the VHS tape because I was constantly trying to like, what's he hitting in this spot? And what's he, and I'm pausing it like so many times that the tape snapped. And it just, I got really fascinated with incorporating electronics into acoustics, but back in the 80s and 90s, that was it was insanely expensive. I mean, I remember buying an SPD-11 Octopad for like, God, what was it? It was almost $2,000, and that was 1990s $2,000. That's like $1 million today, at least in Canada. But it took a place to play all sort of lined up, and I'm there now finally. And I'm going to be doing more of it, as you'll see in covers coming along, like Nine Inch Nails stuff and Ministry and more of the 80s era Rush and stuff like that. So that's been sort of the direction I've been heading in for most of my life, was how much can you do as a human being by yourself? And then I like playing keyboard parts on my SPD-SX while I'm playing the drum parts with the rest of my body. I do the Myke Few thing, and I get my left hand working overtime. That guy's awesome. I love that. Yeah. That guy's one of my favorite channels on YouTube. He's just, anytime I get like discouraged, I watch that guy. And I'm like, I got to stop being a crybaby. I got to be more like this guy. So he's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely too. And Mike's been a good guy too.
Yeah.
And he actually does 3 channels, but I haven't seen the second one. I know he does the horror movie one, which is, I guess that's his 3rd channel, which he just talks about horror movies and stuff like that.
I got to check that one out. I knew about his gaming one, but I don't really game that much. Like after the Super Nintendo, I kind of like fell out. Like I have a PlayStation and I play Doom, but I'm not, it's not a full-time thing. I don't think I've even touched a video game console in like a year. But when I was a teenager, I played PC games like Doom and Castle Wolfenstein like all day long, because you could put on a record, turn down the music in the game, and listen to music while you're, shooting Nazis or zombies or whatever, or TIE fighters or whatever. So
Nazis.
whatever you got to do, everyone needs a hobby. But yeah, basically that was a good portion of how I spent my time as a child as well. But I gotta check out his horror movie channel because I love horror movies.
We'll get to that in a moment, but I wanted to actually ask, your band teacher just kicked you out as soon as you just started playing that little improvised solo you did?
In which?
For Sing Sing Sing?
Oh yeah, I got about 3 bars in, and then he went like full purple in the face, screaming, and just about I don't remember everything he said. Gosh, this was like a billion years ago, but he was very, very angry and very personally insulting because teachers could get away with that back in the 90s. And yeah, he just sent me packing. And if I set foot in the band room, I was going to get expelled from high school altogether. Like, he was that angry about it. So that was it. And then I just played in bands after that. So
it just seems strange. Like, when did you think he would encourage creativity, or at least have gotten you like, hey, it was cool and all, but just please stick to what the music's saying? That's what I'm saying.
I think that's probably a reasonable response. Like, definitely what I did was it did not suit the song. I went, it was a misfire, to say the least. But at the same time, like, I charted this thing. I wrote it out on paper, everything, like the whole thing. And it was like a kitchen sink thing where I was grabbing other instruments from the main band rooms. I had like wind chimes and concert toms and everything. And he's looking at this like Voltron drum setup thing in the jazz band room, like, what is this? But he was very, like, his thing was he won awards every year for being the top band teacher in our little corner of the earth. And nobody was going to get in his way of constantly winning that, teacher of the year thing. And it was really weird. I learned nothing about music from that man. Nothing. But I did learn the value of shutting the hell up. Yeah. and he was right. He was right. Like, my first drum teacher, a guy named Brian McDonald, told me when I was 12 and I was starting out that it's not what you play, it's what you don't play that really, really matters. And at 12, I didn't know what the heck he was talking about. And it was 10 years later, I actually had to take time away from the kid. I hadn't drummed in like 2 years. I was living in Vancouver and working out there. And I remember I was cleaning my apartment because I'm a responsible adult. And Back in Black by AC/DC was on the radio. And I used to be so dismissive of AC/DC because it was like, oh, he could do this here and that there. And he's so boring and blah, blah. Because I was an uppity I was a dumbass, basically. But it just hit me. Like, I was like, oh, if this guy added so much as a ghost note to this song, it wouldn't work. He played it perfectly. And I fell in love with AC/DC right in that moment. Like, I can remember where I was standing when I had that realization. And it really, suddenly, what my teacher told me about, what you don't play matters more, it made complete sense. And it was probably the most valuable piece of information I've ever been given. So the band teacher was a good example of why it was the best piece of wisdom I've received. Didn't get that from the band teacher. So,
band teacher number 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, but it's good to see that it made you better. So, like we said before, what doesn't kill you make you stronger.
Or at least tired. Yeah.
Tired. And I guess at one point there's an epiphany that pops in your head right there, and you think like, oh my gosh, why did I not think of this before? That sort of thing. So.
Oh, there's that never stops, man. Like, every 5 minutes, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I didn't think of that, And watching other drummers on YouTube, like, I have that feeling, honestly, probably once a day, where somebody's doing something and I'm just like, oh man, I never thought of that approach. Like, again, Neil Peart incorporating electronics into his kit was a good example of that. Another guy that I probably will talk about a lot for the rest of my life is Chris Vrenna, who used to play for Nine Inch Nails back between, there was a gap there where Jeff Ward played on the Lollapalooza tour. But Chris Vrenna was basically Nine Inch Nails' drummer from the beginning until about the end of the 90s. And the way that guy interpreted the songs onto his drum set, he had an acoustic kit with a bunch of pads all over the place. And if you watch his live at Woodstock performance from 94, to this day, that's a benchmark performance as far as I'm concerned, as far as how to approach the drum set from like the most like outside the Venn diagram of what normal people do. Songs like Closer, for instance, he's doing the verses with his left kick is the main thing, and he's doing like everything's on the left side, and then the choruses he switches and plays, normal, because left-handed people are freaks. But he's like over to there and then right back again. He's just like the brain math that guy was doing was just crazy. There's another song they did at that same show called Happiness and Slavery, where I saw that he's doing like open and close hi-hats, like a disco thing, right? Like the offbeat open and close. But then he's playing double kick, and you're like, well, how can you do that if your left foot's doing this on the hi-hat pedal? But he's playing his left foot double kick on the pad with his left hand. So he's able to like do this thing. That kind of thing blows my mind. And I'm impressed forever when people do it, which is why guys like Myke Few, for instance, or even like Mike Conway, the way that he, or Throwback, I can't remember his real name, but these guys make really interesting use of their E-kits where, especially Mike Conway. I don't know if that guy's like a computer programmer or what. He's like Gandalf from where I'm sitting, but just the way they'll put sounds in atypical spots to be able to play everything. Like he did Nazareth, the Hair of the Dog, the other day, and had all the percussion parts in there, and Throwback's done that, and I love that kind of thing. And I'm trying to go more and more in that direction. Like I've got a bunch of Nine Inch Nails covers coming up before the end of the year. I've got a Marilyn Manson one, stuff where like I'm playing the snare with my left foot, like Rick Allen does. That's I find that so fascinating. But anyways,
yes.
Sorry,
no, you're good. You're good. This is good entertainment value, that's for sure. But let's jump into your kit right there. You able to turn the camera a little bit so we can see a little bit more?
Oh, I don't have my kit set up here right now. Like I have, this is, I'll turn the camera. I'm just saying it's not the one for my drum covers.
Yeah.
This is
the
like
practice.
My other kit that I use. There was a while there where like it's just practice cymbals and then a 4-piece, my Ludwig kit. And I'm just doing that to like stay busy while I'm waiting for various move things to be done. And then I've got some triggers on it so I can hear what I'm doing as I'm playing along to stuff. But there was a time where I was gigging enough that it was justifiable for me to have 2 drum sets, which is why I have 2 drum sets, as opposed to Michael Jade, who just seems to have like the most enormous collection of drum gear I've ever seen. And it's all cool. That's the thing.
Well, actually him and Dustin Failer too, the guy I also interviewed too. He's got like a whole array of drums as well. So
there's a guy too. Oh man, I love this guy's covers, and I'm blanking on his name, but his whole room behind him is just like, he looks like a music store. And then I'm blanking on his name. He's got a big beard, but anyways,
I think that's Dustin. I know he's got a beard growing there too, but does it stretch like pretty far back, or is it kind of like all covering the walls and stuff like that?
Oh yeah. But I'm really bad with names. I can remember people's drum sets easier than I can remember their names. I don't know why I have that problem, but I do. So anyways.
They should just etch their name into the drum set there, then maybe that would cause you to remember.
They should. People need to start wearing name tags because people like me suck at remembering names.
Well, some of us, we end up going by fancy names when we come on YouTube, because that happens to be like a moniker that we just want to go with. And then some of us, we just say, this is my name. That's all it is. I mean, I'm sure that's what you did too. That's what I did eventually, because I figured it was best to just show identity. That's the thing, that this is who I am.
I used to actually, I went through that particular sort of situation where I came to the conclusion that, just going by my own name is the easiest thing, because I used to be 2 different solo artists at the same time, basically, because one was electronic music and one was much heavier music, because I love both those things in equal measure. And I just found it was like jumping between 2 personalities. And I grew to actually hate it, because it's just, you couldn't give either one of them the time they needed to really grow. And so you end up just sort of like spinning your wheels. And then one day, God, this was about 5-6 years ago, I just said, I don't know why I'm doing this. So I just piled it in one big pile. And then the first album I made like that was my Hecton Kyrie's album. And that came out in 2019. And that's the first example of me amalgamating all of my interests into one pile of whatever you want to call it. And I'm working on another one right now as well, which I hope will be out in 2023, but life keeps kicking up dirt, so see how that goes.
Yeah. Life gives you lemons every step of the way, that's for sure.
There's a line in the game Portal 2 where the guy's talking about, life gives you lemons. I'm the guy that's going to burn your house down with the lemons. It just cracks me up.
Yeah. I was going to ask because you said you were a big fan of the alternative metal band Thursday.
Well, I was a big fan of their drummer. Like I had never heard of the band before I worked for them on that tour. And I had never seen anyone play like Tucker Rule did. Like his drum kit was huge, and not because he had a lot of pieces. It was like, I think his toms were like 16, 18, and 20. And then he had this huge like Bonham-esque kind of kit. And then he was playing these 22-inch ride cymbals as crashes, the Dry Complex rides by Zildjian. I think I have one of them, but it's buried down there somewhere. But the sound of it and watching him play it just knocked me back. Like it was tremendous. The guy's a great drummer, and it opened my eyes to a whole other way of doing things. Again, like Chris Renna, like Neil Peart, just one of those guys. And I started exploring like big ride cymbals and stuff, and now I actually have a collection of those things, which of course almost no one sees. But I found that band really interesting because it was not a kind of music I'd ever listened to before. But I'm not like a huge fan or anything. I just thought they were really good. Their drummer was definitely an influence, and sonically, if nothing else.
I contributed that song "War All the Time" to you, so I thought
I saw that.
I thought it was because you were a big fan, so that's why I did it for you. And I thought it was also one of those. Originally, I wanted to because the song was actually pretty simple too, though I had trouble with my pinky at times because I had to kind of stretch up here pretty far just to reach for certain notes. So I I have to get that working a little bit better. So
I play bass as well. I know, I feel your pain. Like you got to get that pinky going, or you're screwed. Well, it's the same thing with drumming too. Like I do most of my work like this. I don't do a lot of arm stuff anymore. Like I started doing that after a Dave Weckl clinic like 20 years ago. I saw him doing this, and I thought, well, he's better than I am, so I better start doing this. He's better than just about everybody. But
yeah. I would say you only do the arm stuff when you're really feeling it too, and then that sort of thing.
I get into it sometimes.
I don't blame you.
But
you can't do it with the camera. That's the thing.
What's that?
I was gonna say you can't do it with the camera on you. You can't feel like you're let loose or anything. You can't go all over the place like you probably would when you're practicing.
Well, I definitely, Brent, like I take more risks when I practice so that I don't take risks when I play live. You know what I mean? Like when you're playing for people, and most of the playing I've been doing for the last 25 years has been for other people. So what I've learned the hard way is that when you're behind someone, they don't want a shaky foundation behind them. You know what I mean? Like they need to know that you're going to hit this transition and hit this accent and hit this tempo or whatever, and especially singers, because like their singing is probably the most challenging job in a band. Drumming is the most physically demanding, but singing is the most mentally demanding, and you can't rock that boat. You can't. The vocals absolutely take priority. And so what I do is I will work out all my little, me-isms well in advance, so that in rehearsals people know to expect I might do this or I might do that. Because one of the things I learned in jazz band, which I've carried into heavy metal, which is that like when jazz drummers will hit the snare drum to accent horn lines and stuff like that, my thing then became, I took that and I use my kit to sort of lift up different instruments. So if the guitarist is in the middle of a solo, but he's done the same rhythmic run 2 or 3 times, match him on the 4th one, but then get back out of the way, because you're not there to overshadow, you're there to lift. And you got to everyone in front of you has to know that you've got them, that you're not just farting around back there. And so in practices and rehearsals, I do way crazier stuff than I do live or in the studio, or even for drum covers. Like I rein it in, with the exception of a few where it's like, okay, I got this and I'm just going to shred. Like Fortunate Son, for instance. I was throwing Rush drum fills in there by the end of it, because I'm like, what's Don Fogerty going to do? Beat me up? But yeah, there's definitely, like, I find drumming is an extraordinarily wonderful outlet for emotions, and I get really into it, especially I find, like, at my age, I'm more into it than I ever was, and I did not see that coming. Like, when I was 12, I was eating and breathing and sleeping drumming, and I'm 44 and it's the exact same, but with an extra layer of gratitude on it, that A, my body still works so I can play the instrument, B, that I still want to play the instrument, and C, that I'm still improving. And so I, once in a while, like, there's a cover coming up on Remembrance Day, which I don't know what you would call that in America. It's November 11th up here. It's where we mark the end of World War I.
Veterans
and
Day.
There's, what's that?
Veterans Day. It's called Veterans Day.
I don't know why we just don't all call it the same thing. Like, you guys have Columbus Day. We call it, the September long weekend or whatever
October.
it is.
It's in October, yeah.
That's in October? Okay, that we call Thanksgiving. But,
okay.
Welcome to Canada.
Welcome to Canada, motherfucker.
But basically, yeah, I've got one coming out of Run to the Hills by Iron Maiden because it seemed fitting somehow. And I left it in because I just left it as one take, because halfway through the song, in my head, 6-year-old me was like, oh my God, you can actually do this. And I started laughing, because I was just having the time of my life. And I'm like, man, with everything going on in the world right now, I get to be this happy. Like, no way that's fair. I'll take it. But it was, I find drumming for me is a great place to just let it all go and get it out of my system. Like, back in 2017, my dad died. And it was 2 days before I had this huge gig with this metal band called Wilt, who are still active, actually. They're going on tour in October. They're a phenomenal band. And I was their bass player for 2 years, and then I was their drummer for the last year that I was in it. And my dad had died, and it was a long, complicated, very personally painful situation that I won't go into here. But, man, I just left it all on that stage. Like, I went, sat down with a lot in my head, and 35 minutes later, it was the best therapy I'd ever gone to. And I just got it out. And drumming, man, if it wasn't for drumming, I couldn't tell you what kind of person I'd be today. I'd probably be a serial killer. I don't know, but or a politician. But same thing. But basically, yeah, I'm just grateful to still be able to do it. And the fact that anyone on YouTube cares at all about what I'm doing is mind-blowing to me. Because the thing is if anyone wants to question my sincerity, I was playing in basements with no one watching for 30 years. And now that someone's watching, I'm just grateful. Like, I'd still be doing this if no one cared, but because I care. But the fact that there's an audience and everyone has been so nice. Like, I've seen in a number of interviews, like with people you've interviewed and Drumman 190 and Eric over at Drum Attic, where they've experienced negativity. And I've no doubt that that's coming my way. But so far, everyone has been really nice. They've been consistent in their support. You can tell most of them are watching to the end because they'll notice the little cartoony bits I throw in there or whatever. Hoagland from El Baterista Rupestre, the cave drummer. I had to put that in Google Translate to find out what it meant. But my kids speak Spanish. I never learned Spanish as a kid. I can speak French, but no one cares. But basically, yeah, like, he's always on there and he gets every little cartoon reference I'm putting in there. And when that happens, I just feel a little, like, lift of joy. Like, okay, someone else is laughing at life the same way I am. Okay, good. And, yeah, like, this has been the first uniformly positive musical experience of my entire life. It really, like, not to say I haven't had positive moments here and there. I've had tons, but YouTube so far has just, God, it's just been the greatest thing ever. Really. So anyways, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, one thing I noticed, you Canadians are definitely talkers once you start knowing what it all is. Because I was talking with a fellow from Prince Edward Island, also in Canada.
Mhm.
His name's Lee, and he said he was pretty introverted too. Would you say you're a little bit introverted for some part, and then only extroverted when you get on the stage and start jamming out?
To a point. I mean, I've always been a talkative kid, but at the same time, I'm completely 100% comfortable just in my headphones. World doesn't exist. I spent most of my childhood like that for a lot of reasons. None of them good. But
None of them good.
Music really, honest to God, saved my life multiple times. Like I grew up during one of the greatest eras that a kid could grow up in, and I'm really grateful for that. But that doesn't mean childhood was positive. It was not. But at the same time, I had my outlet, and I know a lot of kids don't get that, so I definitely had it easier than some. But music was this incredible escape from it all, which is why the album artwork got me excited first, because it was like, where is this happening? Like, you look at any Iron Maiden album, right? And when I was 6, I was like, I got to know what this Eddie guy's all up to, you know? Like, there's this kid across the street from me who had a t-shirt with the Killers artwork on it where he's holding the axe. And I remember seeing that as a 5-year-old and just be like, that guy killed somebody. What's going on? What is this band talking about? Because you're 5, right? So you take everything literally.
Yeah.
And it was just this like doorway to another world. And the more I started to explore music, the more that became sort of the dominant thing in my life. And God, I'm eternally grateful I discovered it, because it's gotten me through literally everything. And being able, again, and it adds to the gratitude when I'm playing the drums. Like, I don't smile a lot when I play. I have resting peart face. But if I'm playing the drums, I'm having a good time. Like, you don't see it a lot in my covers, but there's Drumatur, this dude from Indonesia, really nice guy. I'm gonna hopefully do a collab with him soon. But he was giving me heck about that. He's like, you got to smile more in your videos. I'm like, yeah, probably, but I'm too focused on not embarrassing myself.
That's right. We are focused. We are in the zone, as we would like to say, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, I'm like
danger zone.
Gone. Oh yeah, that's how you get ants, Lana.
Yes. All right. Kind of got a little outside the questions here, but what kind of sticks do you play with?
Vic Firth 3A. I usually use nylon tip, but the city currently doesn't have any because supply chain issues. So, but I used to use the Danny Carey signatures. I really like the notch that they have right here, where it's just you put your thumb in there and you never lose the stick. The problem I had was that they were like baseball bats, and I started getting tendonitis in my forearms, which was not fun. And so I had to switch to the next level down, which are these. But prior to that, I used the Dave Weckl Evolutions, the orange ones, for like 20 years. And then I had to, you just have to make changes as you age because your body has different complaints. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at now. I like the nylon tip, but I got to go with what I got. So
your body is slowly telling you, getting old, that sort of thing. And then can't really do the things that you used to do. I know you're always doing the stick twirling because I know that's how you did a whole lot of it during the drum collab. With Joey Clark. This is
just a nervous habit. Like when I was in school as a kid, I'd do this with my pen all day. Just sit there, just doing this, tapping my feet, basically being irritating. And I don't even, when I'm doing this in videos, it's unconscious. If you see me doing like flips, that's because I actually decided to do it because I suck at those. And like there's my catch. I'm not good at flips. But yeah, the twirls just kind of happen.
It came naturally afterwards. I think you just started doing it, and then eventually you got to a point where there's no getting away, that sort of thing. And then people are just starting to be like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" That sort of thing.
It's been a general theme in my life. Yes.
Yes. Talk about your career path. I guess you say you jumped around with various bands, and now you're kind of making your own music.
Well, yeah, I've been making my own music off and on since 2008, but I've only been making good music since about 2018. Anything that I'm proud of is on my Bandcamp page, and then a bunch of stuff no longer exists. Don't look for it. But I played for a lot of other people, either just as a touring drummer, just as just playing on the record. I played on a lot of TV soundtracks. And then, but yeah, like Wilt was the last band that I was part of the band. And other than that, in the last 20 years, yeah, it's just mostly been session work. Like, I've played on soundtracks for like the Outdoor Life Network and CBC, the Aboriginal People's Television Network, and stuff like that. And that's just, you go into the studio for 2 or 3 hours. Somebody sends you a little bit that you learn like day of, and you go in, you play it. They say, yeah, that's good. And off you go with your little very, very, very thin stack of cash. Very, very, very thin stack of cash.
Very thin to help pay the rent, that sort of thing.
Actually, the only time I've been able to consistently pay rent for a long period of time, I was working at a bar downtown in Winnipeg, where for a year and a half, I was the house drummer. Like, I was the drummer in the house band. So Friday and Saturday nights, we did 2 45-minute sets. Friday night was rock night. Saturday night was like dance night. And it was the greatest gig I've ever had up to this point. We were done by midnight. I lived like 3 blocks away at the time, so I could just walk home. I had just had a kid, so I only had to work like 3 hours a week, and I got to spend 6 days a week with my daughter. And I like greatest situation ever. And she was brand new, and oh man, parenting's the coolest thing ever. But and I mean, it helps that my kid is awesome. If my kid was a jerk, I'd probably hate it. But basically, yeah, that paid the bills for a while. It was really nice. And then they decided that DJs were cheaper, and then the club lasted another 6 months. now it's a gym.
Yeah, so whenever we downgraded, now everybody hates you and that sort of thing, and then eventually you get replaced by a gym.
Everything. That's like the end result of every business. The end result is a gym that no one goes to. And but yeah, nowadays it got to the point where, like, I would love to go back on the road again, drumming for whoever. I don't care. I'd play for U2 right now, even though I kind of want to kick Bono in the face on a daily basis. But basically, like, I love touring. I love traveling. I love just being busy. But at the same time, my own music is a huge priority, because it's something that, like, I can have a little bit of control over. Not in the sense that I got to have control over everything, but in the sense that, like, someone's not gonna. Yeah, it's like, hey, I'm not Emperor Palpatine, but it's nice to have your own little Millennium Falcon that only you mess with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's very much where I'm at. Is I like making my own records. I'd like to be able to tour them eventually, but we'll get there. But the thing is drumming for other people is a great way to learn, and then making your own music is a great way to sort of grow as a musician, because you're gonna screw up tons, and then eventually you'll start figuring out and learning from your mistakes. And gosh, I put out a bunch of records where it was like I knew what I was trying to do, but no one else could see it because I didn't do a good enough job of translating this into real, And then with the last record, the Hekaton one, I was like, oh, wow, that's okay, good. Like, I'm on the right path now. Like, Matt, I did an interview with Drum Man. Unfortunately, it got garbled, which I mentioned to you, but he was saying that the song Godzilla Never Dies is the one that he really liked off that. And that's the one that everyone keeps picking out as like, that's their favorite. And that's incredible to hear, because it's new to me to hear that kind of feedback. And I'm hoping the next one is even more fun. But yeah, I would say that basically take any opportunity you can to do anything musical. It's a worthwhile thing. It's a worthwhile use of your time.
I would say, if it wasn't for the fact that I have 2 jobs and trying to start writing stuff in that thing, and as well as doing this podcast, I've thought about trying to do my own music, just like simple electronic stuff, because I got the thing called Captain Chords, which is something that allows you, it picks all the chords for you, so it can be like, whatever it is, we'll just say E flat just for an example, and then you just plug and play, and then I guess you can try to add things here and there, and then try to add things on top of that, so you can make it sound like a pop rock song or that R&B kind of song you hear him make, and it's tough. It is. The first time I explored making records was back in 2008. I had GarageBand on a laptop, and I had some free time, and I just started I had these ideas, and I started putting them down, and
it's an incredibly rudimentary record that I made. I still really like it. It's called Music for Suicides, which was actually just a dark joke. I was actually having a lovely time making that record, even though it's super. I did. I had a blast. I had an absolute blast making the record, but the music is super depressing. And it's very rudimentary because I didn't understand things like filters and what synths really do to shape the sound. I didn't really understand automation. I just like, well, this is a catchy melody, done. And what I've learned since then is that you've got to be brutal with yourself, like brutal with yourself. Just because you like an idea doesn't mean it's done. You know what I mean? Like you got to really, really just rip it to pieces and be okay with that. And eventually that actually gets easier and easier to do. So that's the good news for anyone watching this, is it at first it's freaky as hell. And then afterwards it's like, it becomes automatic. You're like, okay, I like this, but is it enough? And then you just listen to it a million times and you think, no, I'm going to add this thing, or I'm going to take this bit out. And taking bits out is the important part. Like my first drum teacher said, it's not what you play, it's what you don't play. Which if he's watching this, Brian McDonald, you were fantastic.
Please come back.
But what's that?
I was going to say, please come back.
Oh, he that guy taught me some incredible stuff. But basically, like taking things out of your own music is usually the best thing to do. Like every song I've written starts out as a 25-minute garbled nonsense, and you whittle it down to something good. And I feel like I'm just starting to get the hang of that process now, this far into it. So, but yeah, GarageBand that was a phenomenal program. It was so easy to use, and just bought a little MIDI keyboard, and I am introverted. I don't go out a lot, so I had a lot of time to work on music. And I had a beautiful big window in front of me in this apartment, so it was wonderful. Just sit and watch the sunsets and make depressing music and smiling the whole time. So,
the Dark Lord, Mike Lewis, that sort of thing. Maybe we could just do that.
Basically.
Yeah.
Basically.
You already had kind of mentioned, normally one of my questions is, what do you love most about drumming? I think you've kind of answered some of that. I guess, was there anything else to it?
No, just it's when I'm drumming, I just that's when I feel the most at peace with the world or with myself. And I've come to really, really like that. I used to, I want to be a rock star and I want to be popular and blah, blah. And I just want to keep being happy. And I like playing the instrument just for the sake of playing the instrument. And I get now, like, when I was a kid, you hear a bunch of times like the reason for doing it should be the doing of the thing. It shouldn't be the supposed rewards on the other side of it. And I know what they're talking about now. Which, like I said, like I'd still be playing drums if anyone was watching or not. But the fact that people are is lovely. But I think that's probably what it is. It's like being an astronaut, and for a few minutes I got to take my helmet off and breathe real air. That's what the drums is like for me. And
I see.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, it's powerful stuff too. And that's normally what most people say it is, therapeutic in a way, more so after a stressful day. But I guess you don't have to talk about it, but I guess you had a little bit of a rough upbringing, I guess, or something like that. So.
Well, it was intense. I had a very intense dad. He meant well. But you ever see the movie Full Metal Jacket?
Yes.
Okay, the drill sergeant?
Yes. Gunnery Sergeant Hartman.
I heard lines from that movie before I ever saw that movie. That was my childhood. It was and at the same time though, I mean, there were valuable lessons in there, so I'm not suggesting that everything he did was wrong. It was just a bit much.
Yes. The hard life lessons, I guess. But you guys see what he's
all life lessons are hard lessons.
Yes.
All of them.
Very much. Do you have a preference between either an electric or an acoustic set, or do you sometimes like to merge the two?
Well, my ideal is a mix of both, but I would pick the acoustic just because of the instant response. Like I can take what's in my head and get it out on an acoustic kit pretty much instantly. Whereas with the electric kits, it's a different, like there's tons of fun things about electric kits, but you got to do more prep work in advance. You know what I mean? Like in terms of picking sounds, and you got to get used to how the pads respond. And And I find that most pads don't respond the way that I'd like. And again, I realize I'd get used to it if I was playing an E-kit full time. But man, I don't know. There's something so immensely satisfying about just like, I got this 18-inch floor tom that when I hit that thing, it's like I feel like I'm Thor carrying the hammer, like it's just it's an incredible feeling, and I just love it. So acoustic all the way for me. But electronics can really add to your acoustic kit. Like Danny Carey does a great job of that, obviously. But yeah, acoustic.
All the way. Acoustic all the way.
All the way. Unless I do want to get a kit of Mike Fuse got those old Simmons pads, the hexagons. Yeah. I would love to have a whole kit of those. But whatever.
Those are more of like, I think most of the time when he hits it like near the end, after stuff like that, I think that's more of his ride cymbal when he hits it with his right hand. But
I just want them because they look cool. They probably play like crap, but I want them because they look cool. That's entirely it.
I guess we could draw like a little pentagram on it or something like that, try to throw it in there or something.
Well, actually, what I would do is I would try to make them light up as I hit them, like, because there's so many options available, so that from the audience's perspective on the other side, as you're hitting the pads, they're lighting up. Like, that's been a dream of mine since I saw the Money for Nothing video, because they rotoscoped all the animation over top of the guy's real instruments, right? So in every other shot, stuff's glowing. And when I was 7, that was like, and so I would love to do something like that, but that's when Myke has money one day. And I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Well, Myke is loaded with money, and that's when he can invest in other projects.
When Myke can do this unironically, then I'll have a Simmons kit. But until then, I got to make do with the classic Yamaha.
I see.
So
okay. And you have mentioned there Danny Carey, Chris Senna. I think I pronounced his name wrong. Was it
Chris Vrenna?
Vrenna, sorry. And then Neil Peart, I guess. Were those guys your inspirations? And I guess, do you have any other ones?
Yeah, the first 2 drummers I was inspired by were Chris Whitten, who played for Paul McCartney on the Flowers in the Dirt record and the subsequent tour. And I first heard him on the live album from that tour called Tripping the Live Fantastic, which is around here somewhere. I haven't unpacked everything yet. But they do like a lot of Beatles covers as well. And I remember my dad showing me, the Abbey from Medley Road, the medley from Abbey Road with Golden Slumbers Carry That Weight in the End.
I think so, yeah.
There's a drum break in there that Ringo does. It's super basic, but it's also awesome. And my dad was like, I bet you can't do this. And so then I got to work. And in doing so, just Chris Whitten ended up being sort of a foundational sound and style for everything, because the guy's got groove for days. And he ended up playing for Dire Straits after that on their On Every Street tour. And then he's on the Night live album, which if you check out the song Calling Elvis, it's the opening track from the concert. It's like a 10-minute drum solo, him and the percussionist. It's phenomenal. And I was fortunate enough to see them play when I was 12 on that tour. They came to Winnipeg. And before we showed up super early, like the house lights were all still on, everything. And he was behind his drum kit. They had the curtains down, but you could walk past the curtains and see to the side of the stage, right? And he's there practicing on and we're like, that's the guy! That's the guy! And then, so I just waved to him, and he saw me, and he waved back, and that was the full extent of our interaction. But yeah, it was like one of the coolest memories of my whole life. And then the show obviously was awesome. And then the other drummer is Graham Broad, who played for Roger Waters for like ever. But it was when they did The Wall live in Berlin in 1990, and they did the whole theatrical production and everything. They had this like 300-foot high wall or whatever it was. And to celebrate the fall of the actual Berlin Wall, I think this happened the following summer. And Graham Broad, again, his drumming was like, there's nothing super flashy about it. Same as Chris Whitten. Like Chris Whitten's one of those guys where it's like, it's just kind of keeping the beat, and then all of a sudden he'll whip out some crazy fill, and you're like, oh, and then he's back to keeping the beat. Super tasteful drummer. Graham Broad, same thing. But Graham Broad's drum set was the coolest thing I ever saw in my life up to that point, because he had this Tama acoustic kit on one side, and then he turned his seat and he had this Simmons D drum mix of electronic pads. I don't know why he did it that way. I don't know what his logic was behind it, because some songs he'd play on the E-kit, some he'd play on the acoustic, but it was just the neatest thing I ever saw as a kid. And those guys, I played along to those live albums, Tripping the Live Fantastic, On the Night, and The Wall live recording just about every day for like 10 years. And so those guys are the foundation. And then Neil Peart came later, Chris Vrenna, Danny Carey, basically in that order. And then since then, I mean, there's been tons of drummers I've seen since that have definitely inspired me, like Tucker Rule, for instance. You know, where just people who do things just a little bit different but still like do it with like, you know, chutzpah, you know what I mean? I love that. And now on YouTube, same thing. Now I'm seeing guys who are just, you know, they're busy raising families and being, you know, adults, but they're just shredding it in their garage or basement or whatever. And I'm loving it. Like the list of drummers that inspire me we'd be here all day, and I'm chatty enough as it is.
Yeah, we definitely have a long list, and I guess we even found people in our community too that can be inspirations as well. So I can see what you mean. So
yeah.
Speaking of which,
you did a Pantera cover recently, actually, and Vanny Paul is another guy that really like blew sonically and playing wise, because a lot of metal drummers don't have like they don't swing. You know what I mean? Like, and I guess sometimes that's because the producer quantizes everything or whatever, but. Guys like Vinnie Paul, guys like Gene Hoagland, guys like Thomas Hayek, they just there's some about them. Like Gene Hoagland, especially. That's the only death metal drummer that I think could legitimately play jazz, and not sound like he's dicking around. Like that guy has some serious groove to his playing, and that's something that I would say. You see a lot of kids coming up playing metal. And they're concerned about the speed, and and I get it. When you're a teenager, you just want girls to notice you. So if you're faster than the other guy, girls notice you. But basically, they lose sight of letting the music breathe, and you know, I mean, maybe they learn it eventually, but yeah, you just gotta give the music some space sometimes. And guys like Hoagland, like, are somehow able to play a wall of double kick, but you can breathe in it. Like Strapping Lad's Alien record is a good example. Might not be everyone's taste, probably won't be, but the drumming on there is a high water mark for the instrument in general, I think, let alone Gene Hoagland himself. But yeah, anyways, I find that like as I go along nowadays too, they're like, because hybrid kits are easier to come by. Just the way people are executing stuff is fascinating. I don't know. And I'm always taking notes. Because you can learn from anybody. And I tell my kid, never, ever pass up the opportunity to learn something for free. And that would be advice I'd pass along to anyone watching this as well.
That's pretty sweet too. Good advice as well. And it's funny you mention about Gene Hoagland too, because I know he's jumped around a little bit, but I thought it all started with him when he was taking pictures when he was with Slayer a little bit. I think he was being like their tech guy or something at that point.
Yeah, he was the drum tech like during the Hell Awaits era. Like apparently when they were recording that album, he was holding Dave Lombardo's kick drum in place because he was moving all over
the place.
But first time I ever saw Hoagland was when he was, pardon me, sorry. First time I saw Hoagland, he was playing with Death. Did you ever check that band out?
I've heard him a couple times. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
It is a level of musicianship that you would see from like Alan Holdsworth or something. Like it's they had the other drummer to form Cynic with the guitarist from Death, Paul Masvidal. Sorry?
I was going to say Chuck Schuller, but I know Chuck Schuller, he was the front man.
No, Chuck Schuller was Death, and then his guitarist and drummer went off and formed Cynic. And Sean Reiner, he just passed away last year, the year before. And one of those drummers that just came at it from such a weird place, like a really jazzy drummer, but he could play double kick faster than just about anybody and shred like the Dickens. But he was great. Anyways, yeah.
No, that's good you mentioned about the drummers.
I could talk all day about good drummers.
Yeah, I know. And unfortunately, we got at least a little bit of a time limit here. Otherwise, I would have to break up this interview a little bit. But like I said, you Canadians and even the guys over in the UK too, you guys are chatty. I'll give you that much.
It's part of who we are. Yep. We're very polite until we're not. So.
Yep. Good thing on you. All right. I was going to jump into your YouTube channel, I guess. When did you start, and I guess when do you hope to achieve with it?
I started last February, and started posting consistently last February. And what I hope to achieve is world dominance and the colonization of Mars. But I'll settle for people enjoying what I do. But basically, starting in 2023, like I have all my covers filmed for 2022. I'm already done. For 2023, I was going to start up more theme days of the week. So I'll be doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And what I want to do is entire albums. So every week you get track 1, and then next week it's track 2. And like the first one of those I'm going to do is Moving Pictures by Rush. And I want to get people more involved in picking what I play. I want to show people albums maybe they haven't heard before, that kind of thing. And eventually what I'd really like to do is do more live streams so that like I could play along to an album in its entirety in one go if people want to watch that. I'd like to get more into teaching. I used to do that a number of years ago. I used to teach development. I don't know what the term is, and I'm going to apologize if I offend anyone, but people with developmental issues like mental or physical. Yeah. Like I had a whole bunch of students like that I taught and who were just a delight. Like really, this one kid only wanted to learn Billie Jean, but man, it made him so happy. But I would like to teach more once I get my setup upgraded a little bit, and because I'm working with really old gear over here, like my computer's from 2011, but it hasn't touched the internet in 8 years, which is why it still works. But that's basically I want to do more live stuff and just show people more music maybe they haven't heard and collaborate more with people. I'd like to do that every week if I could. I got a list as long as my leg of people who I want to collab with. You're on it. Like just about everyone I interact with is on it. So that's 2023's goal. And then 2024, I'll deal with at the end of 2023.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's been tough with the collabs too, especially when you get a whole bunch listed up and then you got to make sure like who's going to do all the editing process. In fact, it's funny you mentioned Pantera too, because I'm actually doing one with Rich Raw Dog Dumbs. We're actually doing This Love.
Yeah, that song's so fun.
You know what it is, and at the same time you think it's kind of a simple one, but then I think when you start playing it and the camera's rolling, it's not entirely too, because I feel like I'm going to mess up on one of these foot pedals here too. And ironically, I've learned that there was like a little triplet during like the chorus section, like you keep this love, that sort of thing right there.
Yeah.
And I have to admit I was taken by surprise, but I feel like shit. Now I gotta think it all over again. That sort of thing.
Definitely. There's so many songs like that, man, where it's just like, this will be easy. I'm good enough to nail this in one go. 10 takes later. Yeah. Yes. That's one of the things that's so fun about it is you get humbled on a daily basis, which, sometimes we all need. Like there's actually one cover I tried to do that it was so frustrating that I gave up and no one will ever see it because I just couldn't get it right. And it's the simplest song. It was The Hand That Feeds by 9 Inch Nails. It's almost just a house beat, the whole song. But for some reason, I just couldn't get it together that day. And I ended up like, that's why I got really mad. I got really frustrated with myself because I just couldn't get it together. And so then I went cymbal shopping. And yeah, it happens.
We put it on the shelf. Yeah, I know that happened with me with Sabotage from Beastie Boys. That was actually my first collaboration with Ash Wells. Yeah. And I kept screwing up because of all the splashes and everything in it. So it was like, I keep screwing up here. But I think if I were to do it again, I would have just did it as best as I could, because I don't think people would notice like how much I was probably lifting up, and I'd probably get away with it, to be honest. So
it's tricky to determine which mistakes to leave in and stuff. Like there's probably a mistake left in every drum cover I'm going to post because God, I'm not even close to halfway perfect. But I actually have Sabotage coming out in 2 weeks. Sabotage is coming out, and a few other Beastie Boys ones down the road. But that song is such a fun release, like to play when you just like sink into it. Yeah.
Well, it's funny too because I was able to like crush that song whenever I played it on Rock Band, because it wasn't really that hard too, and I was like, I'm getting this. I'd say almost acing this song, no problem here. I missed a couple notes here and there because I think there was like a little double kick they snuck in there purposely. I don't know if it was legit or not, but
there's double kick in Sabotage?
It's like real brief, but it's like near the end, I guess. Oh, man.
Jeez. I remember playing Guitar Hero all the time, and it drove me nuts because there were songs I could actually play on the guitar, and I couldn't play the songs I knew on Guitar Hero without the crowd booing me.
But yes. Oh wait, we have colors now. I can't just play like a simple chord I was doing before.
I took the time to learn this song. But yeah.
Yes.
Do you ever see Rush trying to play Tom Sawyer or I forget which. I think it was Tom Sawyer, where they were trying to play Tom Sawyer in Rock Band, and Neil Peart couldn't do it because it was too again. It's like playing an E kit. It's a different feel. It's a different response. And same thing. Like I think Geddy Lee might have been the only one who came close to pulling it off. Alex Lifeson was just constantly like twang, twang, twang. And I mean, the dude's like one of the best guitarists that's ever lived. So watching him fail at that was hilarious. But
no, I actually saw the one with Dragon Force. They couldn't do their song "Through the Fire and the Flames," and
oh man,
so you see the beginning. I swear to God, that's a keyboard in the beginning. I'm not calling that a guitar. I'm not saying that's guitar. That's a keyboard in the beginning.
There's a lot of guitarists who sneak with keyboards, definitely. Even Eddie Van Halen did that, but he was obviously great. So, but yeah,
exceptionally talented. Yeah. So let's see. Biggest influences? Yeah, you gave me that. All right. I'm going to say we're at this. Oh, wait, nope. I almost jumped too soon. COVID. I guess, given that you were, I guess, pretty introverted, I guess, did it impact you in any way? I guess, how bad was it in the community, too?
Yeah, it pretty much upended everything. Like, being introverted is one thing. It doesn't mean I'm not a shut-in. I just am content to sit and work on something. And it did a number on my family. Various people went various levels of crazy. I don't know how I don't really know how it was handled in the States, and I don't even know what I can really talk about in Canada, because that's what Canada's like now, which is the biggest takeaway from what I'm saying right now, is that's what Canada's like now.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that, especially having grown up at a time where you could just be a person. But it definitely had an impact, but not in like my social life dwindled to nothing, which is, that's fine. And I had to homeschool my kid through junior high, which actually turned out to be a lot of fun. And there were some changes in terms, like right now, I think it's probably more difficult than anything else, because for the first 2 years of COVID, we had a place to live, and I was lucky. I got to just kind of stay out of the whole thing, because I was working from home. I was helping my partner run a toy company, which she's still running, making like plush creatures and stuff of mushrooms and plants. It's called, her name's Cami Gertz, if you want to look it up. Gertz is Goertz. But
Zed.
What's that?
No, I get a kick out of when you guys do Z instead of like just saying Z. It's like Zed or something like that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. We sound like illiterates up here.
Okay.
But yeah, basically, I just stayed home and kept my head down and stayed out of the vaccine debates and everything, and just I was able to sort of like sit on the sidelines for 2 years and watch things develop, which was really fortunate for me. But at the same time, the housing market's exploded. Everything's ridiculously expensive. Everyone in charge of this country right now is sniffing glue at best on a daily basis. It took everything that I never took for granted, got kicked over. And I was mad because I had reached a point in my life where I had achieved a level of gratitude for having grown up in the 1980s and 90s, and how I realized there was crazy stuff going on then, but to just have the level of freedom that we had in terms of what you want to do with your life, and you could afford to do the things you wanted to do with your life. It was a great time. And then, watching it all sort of fall apart has been, I never thought I'd be patriotic in my life, but I'll be damned if I don't absolutely love Canada. And I really wanted to go back to the cool place that it was. I mean, yeah, we were basically the butterscotch of countries, but we were Canada. I don't know. It saddens me. COVID saddened me, I guess.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way too. I kind of fell into a little bit of depressive kind of ruts here and there, because I thought in 2021 you would think we were starting to at least turn a page. We were at least going to try to combat this and get better. No. And it's just sum it up in one word about how it all happened here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Stupid.
Yeah, that's what it looked like from where I was sitting.
Yes, and I'm not too sure. And there's a lot of crazy noises. So I was like, the masks didn't really do much or anything, or just putting down these lockdowns didn't really do much to curb all the deaths that happen and all that stuff. So it's almost like you're the experts, right? And I mean, come on, did we not have something in place in case this was going to be out of the way? So
I have my theories, but I don't have my tinfoil hat with me right now. And again, I don't know what YouTube's going to let me say, and I don't know what the Canadian government's going to let me say, and I feel like that says it all. So yeah, COVID has sucked.
Yes,
and
it'd be like, stop it, Ron Howard, stop it, or that whole thing. It was a Strucker and Hoop. There was the guy's wearing a tinfoil hat, and he's thinking Ron Howard's getting into his head and everything. But actually, it turns out to be legit. It's not just a bad conspiracy theory. So you at least know in the TV shows that the conspiracy theories are legit. So
conspiracy theorists have an alarming track record of being right these days, and so I'm giving those a lot more credence than I ever used to. I used to just be like, oh, that person watched too much X-Files, or I watched too much X-Files, but you start seeing some of it seep into reality, and you're like, oh, maybe there's more to this.
I don't mind say there's more that meets the eye sort of thing to say, but I think some of the stuff is a little ludicrous, to be honest. And it's almost like, did you put fertilizer on your balls or something like that? And that's what I would probably ask Alex Jones or something like that. So
Alex Jones is the craziest person I've ever seen in the world, but that doesn't mean he's wrong all the time. I don't know. I find his presentation off-putting, but the information is occasionally interesting. So I was never really a fan of his. I didn't watch any of the footage of him I've seen is usually being referenced by a different show on YouTube that I'll watch. But I find that these days, if I want to know what's going on in Canada for real, I have to get my information from podcasts in England. You know what I mean? Because up here, the news media is 100. The mainstream news media, I should say, CBC and CTV and Global, they're all paid propaganda wings of the Canadian government, and they always have been. Even governments I agreed with, they were still the propaganda wing of that. And so you got to take what they say with a certain amount of who wants me to hear this information and why. And learning to read media bias is as valuable a skill as learning to read music. You know what I mean? It comes in really handy now and again.
Yes. It's a good thing that we are just a music podcast with just talking with people. We are going to let the politics do their little games or whatever. So
it's beyond my pay grade.
Yes, that too. And mine as well. So, all right. So, Myke, we've reached this part of the podcast where now I give my interviewees a little bit of freedom to ask me anything, or if there's anything you'd like to get off your chest. So,
stuff I want to get off my chest. Can everybody just settle the hell down and start getting along again? That'd be lovely. But
yes.
Yeah, as far as you, I mean, what are your plans for next? Where do you want to take your channel and the interviews and things like that?
I didn't make this announcement yet, and I probably should have, but I think when I started this year, I think I was at 45. It might have been 43, but just to round up for the sake of simple math. I think I was at 45 subscribers. I got 100 subscribers, and we're just halfway through this year already. So, and I'm actually kind of happy about it. So, I mean, right now, I like what I'm doing here. I like talking with people like you guys, and I think I've also seen opportunities because I've also wanted to try to make my own music and sort of thing, but I feel like at times I'm not good by myself. So I like to ask other people if they would like to team up at some point, which it's kind of a bit of a letdown too, because I know I think I asked Rich as well. And I think he's a little tied in too with his little projects out there out west, I guess. So I would say YouTube wise, keep rolling with what I'm doing. I mean, I'm posting 3 videos a week. It sometimes varies because one week maybe just be a podcast or drum cover. It used to be the live streams, but I think I'm gonna get the live streams just on the weekend because when I was originally doing them, I was doing them during my lunch break from my normal job, and that kind of added to the anxiety level because I feel like I'm gonna miss out after I do my hour lunch. So,
Are you working from home?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So that's got to be handy, I guess.
I am. They do allow us to go back in the office, but I'm not going back in, especially during this time, considering how bad inflation has been and everything, and given the parking too. If I did want to go back in, I'm asking my dad, please, let's just carpool and just go downtown. You drop me off and pick me up too. That way it makes it so much easier.
Oh, man. It's crazy how we've had to come to rely on our parents again, even as adults. It's really not how I saw life going. But it's the same situation. My kid is staying with my ex-wife at her parents' place. And I'm out of town now. I'm not even living in Winnipeg right now, which is really lovely because Winnipeg is like, you remember the show Breaking Bad?
Yes, actually,
Yeah,
I have watched it. Yeah.
yeah. Living in Winnipeg is like being an extra in Breaking Bad. It's gone really downhill in the last 10 years, and meth is everywhere.
Hmm.
And I'm not a drug guy. I don't mean to be no fun, but I enjoy a large amount of sobriety. But yeah, it's nice to be out of the town and just, or out in a town, and it's like people smile and say hello here, as opposed to don't touch my stuff. And so it's been kind of nice, but like it really, God, man, it's crazy. It's just crazy trying to get by right now. So
Yeah, you and me both, but at least this neighborhood too. It's kind of the same way where you're at. It's pretty friendly. Everyone's pretty nice and everyone too. And it was funny too because my neighbors actually put in a pool next door, and I think they were meant to invite us over one of these days. So we'll get to that point eventually. So
hopefully, I hope everyone gets to that point eventually, but time will tell.
yes, but to kind of finish off your question, I would like to get this podcast rolling a little bit more. I tried going on Anchor. I even formed a Patreon page too, and I'm debating whether to do a website because I don't know. I want to get to where the retirement limit is in terms of like how much money you need to retire. After that, anything extra, I would either go to a vacation fund or I'd do it for charity. What kind of work, that sort of thing.
I would love to make enough money drumming that I can just keep drumming. Like I've said this for decades. If you put me in a shack in the middle of nowhere, if I can play my drums and stay warm at night and somebody brings me 3 peanut butter sandwiches a day, I'm set, and basically like I'd like to afford to go on tour every day for the rest of my life and play until my heart explodes on stage. Like that's my goal in life. Right there.
Yep, we'll have to bring out the CPR and all that stuff too.
Don't even bother. Just let me go.
Yes. He died on stage, and then we shall construct his coffin from the woods of the stage and just do it all that. And give him probably the rest of the place.
That's actually a wicked idea. Just bury me in the wood of my drum set. Just go from there. Yeah. That's actually brilliant.
I think we just gave him an idea of how he's going to construct his will now, so gave him bad ideas.
If I could just make it to Wacken open air, and then die on stage at Wacken open air like 30 minutes into a set, you will never see a more fulfilled human being in your life.
He dies with a smile on his face, that sort of thing.
Oh, no, I'd probably die being mad that I screwed up a fill 2 minutes earlier, but the point is still valid, man. I want to play until I literally can't. And that's all I want out of life. That and, again, world peace and an endless supply of Count Chocula.
Count Chocula.
Well, they took it out of Canada a number of years ago, and I miss it so much.
Why did they take it out? Is this like part of that cancel culture kind of shit going on?
No. I don't think anyone was mad about vampires, but I got taken out like 6 or 7 years ago. They just stopped carrying certain cereals, and then what they do is like once a year, certain stores will have it for like 5 days, and so you got to go there and just like pay this absurd for it. You're getting this tiny little thin box of cereal for like $10, but and I mean it's horrible for you. Like it's probably for the best that I'm not eating it every day, because I would eat it every day, and diabetes exists. So I guess if we're piling on the wishes, I would say that I'd like to also see diabetes cured so I can keep eating like an idiot and not have consequences.
I would actually try out Nathan's hot dog eating contest if that was actually a thing. Then, if we had the cure for diabetes. Would you do a eating contest too, I guess?
Oh God, no. I don't. I'm not an overeater. I eat small portions, but I like what I like, and very little of it is healthy. Actually, one of the upsides of COVID actually is I learned how to cook properly. I make a buttered chicken that I'll fight people in the street over the fact that my buttered chicken is better than everybody else. And
you go to hell, that sort of thing.
What's that?
I was just making a laugh. Like somebody says, "I got better about chicken." You just yell, "You go to hell," that sort of thing. So
more or less, yeah. I'd be like the loud guy at a chili contest, going, "No way, that one's mine." But yeah. So, anyways, I think that would be nice. No diabetes, lots of Count Chocula, no World War III, and if everyone could they don't have to like each other, but just chill out. That's it. I think the world would be fixed like that.
Yes.
And if I die on stage in that world, I will be very happy.
I would absolutely love if somebody just, especially in the political spirit, they just said during the speech, okay, everyone just calm the fuck down, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would absolutely love that guy so much.
I watch too much news on YouTube, and I'm finding that like by midday, I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with people? Like,
Yes.
what happened to manners and just being civil at the very? That's what I don't get about America, because I've been to America like dozens of times, because that's where all the good concerts are. So I go to Minneapolis and Chicago a lot, or I used to. I wouldn't go to either city now, but that's because Kevlar is expensive. But the thing is that I have never met, and I know they exist, but I have never met an American person who sucked. Everyone has been at a minimum civil, and generally they're quite warm and friendly. But you guys have the worst reputation. The worst. Same thing. Like everyone thinks Canadians are polite. We're not. We're the biggest group of assholes you're ever going to meet in your life. We're I think we talk so much because it's so cold here. We're just trying to stay warm through the physical activity, but. No, I find Americans to just be an absolute delight. I love America. I really wish you guys would start getting better politicians and celebrities, because they don't make you look good. And I'm saying that as a guy who lives in Trudeau's Canada, so I know all about being embarrassed on the world stage. But anyways, stop before YouTube censors me.
Yes, in this case, they might come for me too, though. But I would say yes, and they got to stop going for the old people. That's the other thing. They got to stop with the old cronies and all them guys. So. That's a bit of political advice. That's all we're going to give. So, good luck out there. All right. Did you have anything else before we jump to the last question, or?
Actually, I mean, I don't know that this necessarily has to be in the interview, but I'll ask since you're here. I'm trying to put together a new set for when I start filming for 2023, because I'm in a new space. So I got rid of that god awful earwax colored wall behind me from all the. God, I hated the look of that wall. It drove me nuts. But
okay.
But yeah, I'm wondering, like, lighting wise or camera angle wise or color scheme wise, do you have any suggestions?
I mean, I've kind of just been rolling with white lights. I used to have this one that's like right up here in front of me that's kind of illuminating my face and everything. But recently I kind of rolled with just two of my lights, which you've kind of seen in some of my videos. Mm-hmm. I used to do it with colors because I wanted to make it similar to the feeling of the song. So I did a couple of Silverstein ones. I did one that was like autumn colored or blue. Mm-hmm. It was like meant to be a toned down kind of sad kind of look or something like that. But I guess how many lights do you have and how many cameras you got?
I only have the one. Well, okay, I have 3 cameras now, but I haven't used that setup yet. So everything that you're going to see to the end of the year, with the exception of a couple that I got to film in a couple weeks, basically it's my iPhone. And so every camera angle is a different take. And then I'll go into Logic and I'll edit it into one good take, and which is sometimes harder than you'd think. And then try to match up the video with the audio, which is sometimes harder than you think. But Michael Jade sent me an old GoPro of his a couple months ago, which is going to be my foot cam. And then I had to buy it because my other phone fell down some stairs. But it still works, which is the crazy thing. The screen's smashed, but it still films. So now I have 2 phone cameras and a foot cam that I'll start using in 2023. But what I'm trying to really sort out is I've got 2 softbox lights. They're 80 watts, I think, which is why I look like I'm being interrogated by Al Qaeda when I play. But I have them up like in front, pointing in at me like this, and then I have 2 lamps that were behind me just to offset the shadows. And I'm trying to do that better, and I don't really know a lot about lighting yet. I'm still trying to get the sound to sound good, but that's one of my goals actually for 2023 is just to make the videos look a lot better than they do. Because right now I think I'm riding on literally my coattails, because if it wasn't for that suit jacket, I don't think anyone would give a rat's ass who I am. But,
yeah, I was say the suit jacket makes him look professional in a way, I guess. And I was actually curious because your bare feet, because you were doing this. I'm noticing this during your collaboration with Joey Clark during that one Pantera song, 5 Minutes Alone. Yeah.
I play barefoot. I've been playing barefoot more or less my whole life. I don't know why people. I guess it's notable. I don't know why. I don't know any different. I find it very comfortable. I find shoes get in the way, and socks are a horrible idea because you're just going to slide all over the place. But basically, yeah, I play barefoot, but the jacket, I mean, I've drummed professionally enough times that I still treat it like an occasion. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a number of years ago, I was working on my doctorate in history, and I was with an eye towards teaching at the university level. And then I ended up falling apart a number of years ago for a whole bunch of reasons, none of which had to do with me, unfortunately. But I used to teach first-year history at the U of W, and so I'd have like I'm a very much jeans and t-shirt, meat and potatoes guy. Like I'm from the prairies of Canada, so to try to act like I'm not is just kind of embarrassing. But every once in a while, I realize I got to class it up a little bit. So I'll throw on this I got it from some vintage store somewhere. It was secondhand. It's probably 80 million years old, and it smells like it. But I would just throw that on just so I looked professional as I was teaching. And instead of a guy standing up there with an Iron Maiden t-shirt on going, here's why the colonialism program in India went the way that it went or whatever. But because that was my focus, oddly enough, was post-colonialism in South Asia. But I just carried that through to the drum videos kind of as a joke. And then Matt Whitten said, hey, man, that looks awesome. Never stop. And it got really hot this summer, and the whole time I'm like, damn you, Matt. I was in my basement. There's no air conditioning. It's plus 38 outside. I'm trying to play Master of Puppets in a suit jacket. I'm not getting any younger. I'll tell you, man, I was basically a puddle by the end of that. And so the new space I'm in has air conditioning. I'm very, very, very happy about that. Yeah. But yeah, that's the suit jacket is just sort of almost kind of a joke at first. And then I realized that, it's one of those silly things that sets you apart. So I figured I'd keep doing it, and it makes me feel like a grown up. Plus I have a dad bod, so sitting there in a t-shirt doesn't do anybody any favors. So, but yeah, the contrast of like shredded shorts and bare feet and then a suit jacket up top, I realize it's like watching two chatty midgets try to sneak a drum cover past the sensors. But
yeah. Or it's normally a guy that has mental problems or something like that. So, I mean, not to say that you have anything like that, but you get the idea.
I do. I'm steeped in mental problems.
Okay. But I think we got it off topic from your question. I would just say, I normally just roll with white light. I would say maybe try to make it a little bit ambient, because I know Cremo Music, Julian from Germany. He's awesome. He has a spinning light in the background there that kind of makes a little disco light and stuff like that.
He does these little things like, do you remember pop-up video from the late 90s, early 2000s? It was a thing where like they'd show music videos, but little fun facts would pop up in these bubbles as the music video played. And he does the same thing on the bottom of the screen where he'll like say hi to the new subscribers, or he'll like state some facts about the song or whatever. And I really like that guy's channel. I might steal that idea. Yeah. I don't know, but
I don't think he really cares, but regardless,
I'll buy him a beer.
Hey, go to Oktoberfest. Invite him out there. I think he said he lives in Cologne, so I think he'd try to sneak out there one of these days.
Is it? I thought it was Berlin. I was in the process of moving to Berlin, actually, prior to COVID hitting, and COVID sort of kiboshed that.
Yeah.
That was one of the results of COVID.
Yep, another dream down the toilet.
Sorry?
I was going to say, another dream down the toilet. There we go.
Whatever. You look at the way Germany's going now, and I'm kind of like, maybe that was for the best.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, well. But I would say do what you can with the lighting. I'll say I said, maybe see what other drummers are doing, and then if you want to try to mess around with it, then just ask for people's opinion, try that. I would say you're not going to get too much in terms of constructive criticism. So it's either a love-hate kind of relationship.
Well, if anybody, and I don't know if you want to leave this part in the interview or not, but anybody who does have any, like, hey, have you tried this? Hey, maybe try that. Like Michael Jade actually has been really helpful in some ways, and I'm one of those people who likes criticism. Like I want to know how to do stuff better. I get really frustrated when someone doesn't tell me the truth, and they're like, no, everything's fine, and then you find out 6 months later that they were full of it. That pisses me off. But if someone's like, hey, have you considered this because A, B, and C, I'm all ears. So anyone watching this, you want to leave a comment, like, have you tried cutting or getting someone else to cut your hair or whatever? I'll take all of it into consideration.
consider shaving. Maybe that's what they'll probably say too. Because I don't know. I think your pick, either you had like just a goatee kind of roll in there, or whether you were clean shaven. I'm trying to look at it right now. Actually, to be honest, no, you had the goatee. Actually, it was a lot more.
No, it's mostly. I call it the trap jaw beard because I look like Trap Jaw from He-Man. But during the pandemic, I grew my hair super long, like way down past my shoulders. It was not a good look because my hair puffs, so I end up looking like a big triangle.
Yeah.
But I've just been kind of getting rid of it in stages. So, and you can see that like from the first cover I did to the last one, where like this gets neater as I go along, and the beard starts gradually coming down to here, and then it's a process. But yeah, I've been giving myself my own haircuts for like a decade because it's mostly just been a mohawk.
Oh, I see. Another piece of advice I would give is maybe try to add some little bit of video footage in it. For instance, and I'll go ahead and spoil this for you and for people when they eventually watch this. This October, I'm actually going to do a horror theme kind of base with drum covers and everything. And one of them happens to be from Venom, who's that heavy British metal band who came out in the 80s, who coined the term black metal.
Oh, I know all about Kronos and everything. Oh, yeah. I've had many arguments with other metalheads about that band. Yeah.
They're a funny group of guys. And well, that album, Black Metal, it's a funny album, but I'm pretty sure they mean it in jest. But the song Buried Alive, there's a little bit long introductions there. So I guess any songs like that, maybe, I don't know, throw something in and maybe make like a little music video as a bit of a side.
Oh, I've got a ton of that on the way. Like exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, like I did that in the collaboration I did with Michael J, the Primus one. I didn't know what to do for the first minute and a half because there's no drums. So I put a Bugs Bunny clip in there. And thankfully, Michael J left it in. And then I've got, like I do a cover of Under the Bridge coming up, I think, by Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think that's coming up in late August. And most of that is clips of cats from the internet.
Oh,
like if there's no drums, people don't need to see me sitting there going. So, yeah, I absolutely splice in footage from whatever I can find, and the funnier the better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've already got that going for me, but it is a good idea.
All right, just a word of advice out there. All right, we are almost out of time. I guess. Did you have any other questions before we jump to the last one?
They're all math related, and I don't think anyone wants to listen to that. But no, I think I'm good. I think I've rambled enough. Probably I've probably made people numb to the sound of my voice.
Probably, but we have talked for a good hour and 30 minutes already. So I don't know. Do you have a timer on your side under Skype?
No, there's no clock in this room at all. I had no idea we've been chatting that long.
Yes. Hey, it does happen too.
Feels like 5 minutes.
You know, it's so strange because some interviews I've had, especially I had one with the Drumman 190. That one only lasted about 40 minutes, and then I get some of these where they're like an hour and 30 minutes for some reason. I just don't get it. I think people just need to just keep rambling on about anything, really. So,
I used to work in journalism a number of years ago when I was in university. I ran the university newspaper's arts and entertainment section, and I found that the best interviews were the ones where you just shut up and let people talk, and because you're not going to use all of it, but you're going to get better answers that way. I realize it's different in video because I was doing it in text, so editing people is a lot easier as opposed to me. Like I realize it's sort of a string of words that never stops, like right now. But,
yeah. Actually, no. I mean, I tend to leave everything I can in my interviews because one at least it's kind of in this way in the diary because I know that's what some people do. I know John BMX for Christ. I know that's what he does with his videos. He does it like a little bit diary. So that's what each one of these videos can be, and then I guess people also learn a little bit more about each drummer in our community. So,
you know what you should do, and maybe Matt and Eric could do this too, is put people you can put chapters into your videos. You know, so that looking at the bottom.
I tried looking at it too. I don't know how it works. That's the funny thing.
Me either. I haven't figured it out, but you could line those up with your questions. So if somebody's like, okay, this guy's talking too much, go to the next question, and then maybe they'd be more inclined to sit through the rambly ones like this, but
yeah,
I don't know how to do that either. So.
I thought I did too. I thought you had to do it like when you're posting it up there, and then you're just saying like, okay, I'll just do it for this is how long it lasted because I've seen it in videos. And
Ash Wells does that.
Each one's like broken up, yeah. So I think I'm just gonna have to ask Ash. So good bit of advice. So all right. So here's the last question. So And this one I've always liked to ask because I like to hear people's 2 cents on it. And it can be a little bit tricky because I know my one yesterday, he had to kind of think it over a little bit. So, what sort of message of hope could you give to musicians out there?
Oh, that's an easy one. Basically, message of hope is I met the drummer named Ndugu Chancellor who played on Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller. I think he's the guy on Billie Jean. Anyway, super good drummer. And I was in junior high at some music festival somewhere for school. And he said that if, like, to make it, whatever making it means to you, for me, like, I feel like I have made it with the community on YouTube, but you'll never make it when you think or when you want to make it. But if you keep going, you'll make it. And I took that to heart as a 15-year-old kid. And I mean, here we are 30 years later and I'm still playing and I'm loving the instrument more and more. So you're going to get discouraged a lot. You're going to hit speed bumps. You're going to hit brick walls. You just got to remember that you love the instrument. That's why like a lot of the channels I follow are beginners. Like, I could watch Annika Niles or Thomas Lang play all day, but you watch people like Lindsey Buffington was actually the reason I started doing drum covers. It just, life was not in a good place for me last winter at all. And I saw her, she posted this video. It was her first one of 1 year of playing the drums. And the just the pure unbridled enthusiasm that kid had for the instrument took me back out of, like, it completely shattered whatever miserable old man mindset I'd had and took me back to, like, I remember when I was 12 and everything was exciting and music was exciting and drums were exciting. And I'm like, and it still is, I just forgot. And so I find watching beginners really inspiring, and it keeps me grounded in remembering what I love about the instrument. Cause you gotta love it. And if you love it, that'll carry you through everything. And if you don't stop, you will keep getting better. Everything keeps getting better. The one thing I see a lot of people on YouTube saying, especially younger people, is they say they don't have the patience for things. And I'll tell you right now, and no young person in the world wants to hear this, myself included, but you learn to cultivate patience because you will get nowhere without it. And it is just a necessity of life. Like, it's just, you're going to, like Jake the dog from Adventure Time, I'm paraphrasing, but he says, like, you know, being bad at something is the first step towards being kind of good at something. And it's true, but you got to go through the I'm not good at this phase, and it's going to irritate the hell out of you. And you're going to want to be like, you be in a band and you want it to succeed, or you make a record and you want it to sell or whatever. And it's not going to play out the way that you wanted. And sometimes it's you, sometimes it's other people, and sometimes it's just the way life goes. But you've got to be able to sort of navigate that with an element of like, okay, this isn't the end of the world. I could still play. I still love the instrument. Loving the instrument was what it was about in the first place. And so I would say, yeah, like learn to be patient with yourself. Time there's a limit to that patience with others. At some point you got to tell buddy, could you start practicing, please? But yeah, you gotta remember why you love it. Because if you don't, there's no point in doing it. And yeah, but if you keep going, man, it'll pay off in ways you never imagined. So that would be my advice to, I guess, a positive message, if you will, to anyone, any instrument, really. Just stick with it. Remember that you love it, even when it's pissing you off, because it will. Yeah,
that sort of thing. Yeah, and it's also because of COVID and everything, because obviously it knocked everybody sideways too. I think nobody saw that we were going to have to close down these business units, which were the studios, some of the bars, not being able to tour and do stuff like that. You had to kind of resort to like live streaming and stuff like that. So,
but you know, it's not the fact that there was an option for us to adapt to is been wonderful. Like if YouTube didn't exist, I mean, I'd still be practicing my drums in the basement, but like that'd be it. And the fact that YouTube exists, I mean, yeah, I'd rather play in front of people, but to be able to do it this way is certainly certainly an enjoyable stopgap. And I've met tons of really nice people like you and Matt and Eric, and Michael Jade has been one of my favorite human beings to meet so far. That guy is hilarious. Drum Club is another guy I really like chatting with. But it's really, I don't know, you got to put yourself out there, and you got to meet people, and you got to be willing to embarrass yourself a little bit publicly now and again. But, it's worth it. And the more you put yourself out there, the more you get back. And I heard that my whole life and didn't believe it until YouTube. And now I realize that that's the ideal way. So COVID, it's one of those blessing in disguise things. Like it objectively sucked and still does. But there were some good things in it for me. And I think for everyone on some level or another, is it really kind of forced a lot of people to contend with certain things about themselves and move forward, hopefully, as a better person. I mean, again, all of the better person stuff with the caveat that it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that was the other thing too. And I noticed it with other drummers too. I know one, he was able to give up smoking, Adam Carl, by the way. And others were able to start doing projects on YouTube and eventually cultivated a nice presence and stuff like that too. And I think it gave you better interactions with people like us. So it's good to have you on, bud.
It did. God, everyone I've met has just been lovely. Really, everyone. I've never, my whole life, I never felt like I belonged anywhere, and now I'm starting to see what that feels like, and it's awesome. So,
might be a little too much at some point. Maybe you want to see him not give you so many love comments here and there, because I know Eric F., it was one of the guys I interviewed. I know he said it's good to see positive comments, but it gets too much at some point. You want to at least see some constructive criticism. So I don't know if that's something you're going to see down the road, or that's something you're going to tell him. So,
well, I mean, I would hope I did get criticism when I deserve it, and which I've no doubt I will. But I mean, it's just even the criticism though. I've no doubt there's going to be somebody out there who's going to be like, "You look stupid and you probably smell bad." Neither of which is true, by the way. But people are going to take issue with you because they got issues with themselves, and you can't take a lot of this stuff personally. And, I'm too old to, pardon my language, but I'm too fucking old to give a shit about what some teenager is going to say from his mom's basement. Dude, live your life, if you don't like what I do, you have other options. And if you do like what I do, but you still have criticism, I'm all ears. But, I don't know. I found it to be entirely positive, and I hope it stays that way.
Yeah.
And I do think that the positivity has a lot to do with your mindset going into it. So it's an exercise for myself as well to keep things positive. And I watch everybody's drum videos all the way through. Sometimes I don't watch, I just listen. But I give it the full play so people get their watch hours, and so they can get closer to monetization if that's what they want. But you get out of it what you put into it, which is true of literally anything in life. I've learned that the hard way. But I've just, this is so as crap as COVID was, it brought me to this amazing place. So how bad can life be?
Still technically shitty, but at least it's a little bit better than what it was. So,
yeah.
All right. Spoken like a true prodigy. Yeah. All right. So, Myke, we've reached the end of our podcast here, and boy, we talked for a good bit. And you're in one of my longer interviews, to be honest. We almost talked for an hour and 45 minutes, actually.
Cut out the stuff you don't like. I understand.
No. Trust me, I leave it all in there. I don't really care, to be honest. And unless if we rewatch it, then you say, "Can you please just do that and that?" And I adhere to my people too, so that's the thing. So if there is anything you do spot, because otherwise I'm thinking this is good entertainment, let's go put this in here and see what people think of it, and the majority of it will be positive too. So
good.
All right. I know you did want to eventually do a collab. I don't know, I'm pretty much open whenever, because right now I'm kind of waiting on Rock Invader, because I was asking him if he wanted to do one. So currently I'm waiting on him. I didn't know when you wanted to do one. Are you a little busy at the moment?
Well, I'm not going to be able to do anything until the end of August, because I've got some work to do setting up the new space. I don't have access to it until the 10th of August anyways. And so after that, by September, I'm going to be hitting up everybody to just be like, do you want to do a collab? Because it's been playing with other people is a great way to learn. It's a great way to spot your own weirdness as a drummer and the good and the bad. Like the last one I did was with Joey Clark. And I mean, holy shit, that guy, pardon my language again, but that guy can play the drums.
Pardon my French.
He really set the bar high on that one. I ended up retracking that thing 3 times because I couldn't get us in sync. And then I realized it was because he filmed at a different frame rate than I did. And for a full week, Michael Jade was talking me off a ledge because I was like, I can't figure this out. And my biggest fear is to do something through my own ignorance that's going to make the other person look bad, because I don't want to make anyone look bad. And I couldn't figure it out. I remember I filmed it. And I thought, nailed it, done. Threw it into iMovie and like nothing worked, or Final Cut Pro. I mean, so I tracked it again, threw it in, and then this time I recorded along to him. And in Logic, we are locked in the whole song. But when I put it into Final Cut Pro, by the second chorus, we're galloping. That's how out of sync we are. And I ended up having to do a lot of creative editing to make us look like it was lined up. And it was not anything Joey did at all. I learned a valuable lesson about coordinating in advance. Because it's all still new to me, but at the same time, you watch the way other people do stuff, and it's the best way to learn how to do your own stuff better.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So, Myke, we reached the end of the podcast here. Did you have any shout outs or any last words you want to say before we officially close out?
Oh man, I love to give shout outs to just about everyone who's following my page that isn't a bot.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone keeps enjoying it. I do have goals for this. I do have places I'm going to try to take it. So hopefully that's cool. But mainly I'm just grateful to everybody who takes the time out of their life. It's because life is busy. And if you can give me 5 minutes to just sort of watch me dick around on a drum kit, I mean, thank you. You know, I mean, it's amazing. So that's I guess the shout out to everyone who's been watching, and I guess that's sufficient.
What? No, thank you. What? You're supposed to say thank you to me? Come on, man.
Well,
That's
you're one of the people.
Yeah.
You're one of the people watching. Like I included you in that. I was trying to not talk forever for the first time in this interview, and here you are giving me heck about it.
Well, I want you to at least say thank you. So, I mean, that's normally what most people do. But no, I get it.
Hopefully this interview works, and it'll be my first one. So it's you're a milestone in my drumming career. So there you go.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad people like you are doing what you do, because it's nice to be able to talk to people who aren't famous. You know what I mean? Because they usually have the most interesting stuff to say. So.
Yeah, they're more talkative, and they got interesting stories to say. You learn a little bit more about them. You break down barriers. You get to know them now. I'll be like, hey, there's Myke. Let's go give him a nice pat on the back. Let's go get a beer and something. Go get wasted, something like that. Go talk about shit. That, you know.
It's very important. And what you and Matt and Eric and Ash Wells too, like giving shout outs to people and stuff, that's incredibly important what you guys do. Like I think it's more important than anything anyone else is doing. And so I appreciate what you do, but not just because I'm on here today, but for the last couple months that I've been watching.
Yeah.
And so thank you for that.
Okay.
In addition to thank you for watching.
Yes. Okay. No, you're all good.
It's two thank yous you got there.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. No, you're all good, man. All right. So everyone, my guest today was Myke Lewis, hailing from Manitoba. I guess you're a little north of Winnipeg right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
About a half hour north of Winnipeg right now.
Okay. Sounds good.
Which is as close to Winnipeg as anyone needs to get.
Yes. After that, you're going to hate the winter time. That's for sure. So good luck to you there, buddy.
All right.
All right. So stay safe, y'all. Stay tuned.